What up? It's your boy T Bear Reaction along with TJ. You probably been hearing him in the background though. But anyway, we got finished. This is about doing today's Wrestling Wednesday. Got finished doing another video from partsFUNknown as best title run that led to bad reigns. Now we want to check out the worst title wins that led to great reigns, and sometimes it might end up being with more heels than baby faces as well too. And this one, as past one was majority of them was babyface wins with a few heel runs, but this one might have a lot of heel wins with some babyface one. I could be wrong. So either way, without further ado, let's check out 10 worst title wins that led to great reigns. Let's get it.
We do like a bit of symmetry here at PFK, so when we were brainstorming list ideas, we thought, well, we've done the best title wins leading to terrible reigns, and it's one of the greatest videos ever uploaded to YouTube, and everybody thinks so. So why not do it the other way? That'll be fun. Except here's the thing, it's much harder to find a bad title win that works out for the best. As fans, we tend to stick to our guns, so going from this is awful to this is awesome is extremely hard to do. Hard, but after much brain racking, we've decided not impossible. I've put them in an order.
Hold on a second. Alright, here we go.
Because the form demands it, but this is really a collection more than a definitive ranking, so put your pitchforks down now. With that said, I'm Dan, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 worst title wins that led to brilliant reigns.
Let me paint you a picture. You've completed all of TV and watched all the wrestling content from that past week. You've even watched all the great Wrestle Talk and parts.
Alright, hold up. This is advertisement. Hey, well, let's keep going. Drew McIntyre up. This was a good run. He had a good run, though. I'm not sure why it was a worst title win, but I gotta give refreshers to know that win, though. Oh, because of the pandemic, I guess. Anyway.
Number 10, Drew McIntyre, WWE Champion 2020. Poor Drew. Winning a brilliant Royal Rumble to rapturous reception
but
in
because it happened at the pandemic hit. It happened in the performance center instead of in front of a crowd. That's why.
January 2020, it finally looked like the moment the chosen one would become simply the one, and McIntyre was all set for a crowning moment on the grandest stage of them all. Unfortunately, the global bastard happened, and so the grandest stage suddenly became the emptiest as Drew bested Brock Lesnar in a short match in front of a production crew, the announce team, and that massive, completely ineffective ceiling fan. Honestly, look at it. Why is it there? What is it for? Through no fault of his own, the reign Drew would go on to have is, for many, unwatchable. But frankly, the fact that in one of the darkest times in recent memory, he was the figurehead of the weekly output deserves special praise. His was an impossible, thankless task, and he fully committed to the role, and good on him. The fact that he's still yet to hold WWE's top prize in front of a live audience is a genuine shame. Poor Drew. Number 9, Stephanie McMahon, WWF Women's Champion 2000. Now I can practically hear you scoffing, but stay with me on this and let's see if I can.
Yeah, I'm still gonna scoff. Maybe it was a great run, but yeah. I told you gonna be some. That was probably the very rare face run we had. Probably the only one. We'll see.
Can win you over. The goal of a championship reign is to elevate your division and make the belt look like a prize worth fighting for, and on that front, Steph absolutely delivered. Now, the match she won it in was dreadful. Taking the belt from legit badass Jacqueline, Steph didn't do any wrestling herself. X-Pac and Tori did the dirty work, and the whole thing lasts about a minute. However, from that moment on, the Women's Championship was present in every major angle through the summer until it ends up in the main event of Raw. The very first time two women had been in that position against each other. And sure, it's more about the surrounding angle involving the men, but the fans were desperate to see Stephanie finally get her comeuppance, and who better than Lita, who had got over big time as a result of her style and her feud with Stephanie. The closing of that match is unironically one of my favorites ever, and as Lita ends the show on the Hardy's shoulders, holding the glittering belt high, it wouldn't have been nearly as cathartic if Steph hadn't played her role as undeserving champion to perfection. Number 8, The Miz, Intercontinental Champion 2016. When I'm not busy on the Raw podcast pushing my feminist agenda, I can be found aggressively pushing my Miz agenda, and here's the latest stop on that road. When Zack Ryder won the IC belt at WrestleMania,
Another one I'm pissed off about, man. They did him so dirty. They did him so dirty, man. I think that was more dirty than the Dolph Ziggler, though. Half because Ziggler, Cardona, Zack Ryder was a babyface and everything. It was the biggest pop in the world. He's been so over fans as well too. They finally had it, and then to do the bullshit they did, man.
The crowd went banana. The workhorse belt around the waist of someone who was in every way the king of the hustle was a much-deserved moment.
Indeed,
so,
man.
The Miz taking it from him the very next night was infuriating. This would be Miz's 7th reign with the belt, so instead of seeing a deserving fresh face get an opportunity, what could Miz do that we hadn't seen before? Well, it turns out, surprise everyone by having a damn good run with it. Partnered with his wife Maurice, Miz lent into his smarmy D-lister who thinks he's an A-lister character, and he'd go on to have great matches with Cesaro, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn before losing the title in an excellent title versus career match with Dolph Ziggler. This is also the reign where he went on Talking Smack and delivered a promo for the ages on Daniel Bryan that we still talk about to this day, Miz Supremacy. Number 7, Batista, World Heavyweight Champion 2005. 21 minutes and 32 seconds it took for Dave Batista to knock off Triple H and pick up the first of 4 reigns with the big gold belt. This feud had an exceptional build going into WrestleMania 21. Unfortunately, the match ends up being quite dull. It feels as if they're operating at about
they said this wasn't like a great storyline, bad payoff match, but at least it was like a bad payoff match, but a good run.
And on a show that features the instant classic of Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels, there's not a lot for the crowd to sink their teeth into. But the reign. Building a new top star is hard to do, but Batista slips into the role with ease. A fantastic Hell in a Cell with Triple H, the bittersweet but brilliant feud with the late Eddie Guerrero, and even a tag run with Rey Mysterio for good measure. He really became one of the biggest names in the industry before having to vacate the title through injury. Together with John Cena on Raw.
And a blessing in disguise because of what happened afterwards with that title.
Well, the 2 new faces ushered in a new era for the WWE, and this reign was so effective that when I think of this version of the Big Gold, I think of Big Dave. Number 6, Mark Henry, World Heavyweight Champion 2011. After over a decade of gimmicks such as sex addict and man who lifts things, Mark Henry finally got to lift a major championship above his head, and it was quite the moment, and the match that made it happen was mid. It's not technically impressive, it's a bit plodding, it's all very slow, but it does enough to set up Henry as this monster threat, and it's that aura that would carry through the rest of his run as champ. This was the era of the Hall of Pain, and it was as though the stars had finally aligned and something clicked to show us how Mark Henry should work. He's a unique athlete, and he knew how to carry himself in such a way that when given the space, as happened here, he could lean into his physicality and become a monster heel, the likes of which WWE had been sorely missing for years. Matches with Daniel Bryan and Big Show were undoubted highlights, and it's unfortunate that the run got cut short through injury, but still, we always love it when someone gets the opportunity they've been hustling for through their career, and we love it even more when they deliver. Number 5, Chris Jericho, World Heavyweight Champion 2008. I actually love the concept of a championship scramble, but booking 3 of them in one night was definitely a choice. Overkill, of course, being an entirely alien concept to Vince McMahon, who has never seen a dead horse he couldn't flog. On the night, the World Heavyweight title clash was undoubtedly the weakest of the 3. The actual champ, CM Punk, was taken out by Legacy and replaced by Jericho through Mike Adam Lee shenanigans, the worst kind of shenanigans. And then the match feels like they're all out there just to have something to do of a Sunday, killing time until the big finish, which saw Kane fall prey to the world's most devastating spine buster, enough to keep him down for a full 30 seconds, pinned in that time by 2 separate men. Fortunately, Jericho's subsequent title reign was absolutely fire. His first world title since 2002 as the centerpiece of the final act of his iconic rivalry with Shawn Michaels, building to their Match of the Year ladder contest at No Mercy. It might have been short, but Y2J made it count. Number 4, Triple H, WWF Champion 2000. A 14-time world champion and one of the most impactful players to ever step foot in the ring, it's wild to think that the very first time Triple H won the WWE Championship was, well, rubbish. Stepping up into the role of number 1 villain, Trips kicked off the new millennium by besting the Big Show on Raw. The match is whatever, but when you consider how secondary the belt had been made to feel while around the waist of Tall Paul, it's rubbish. Made even worse by the fact that after the pinfall, Show immediately gets up and leaves the ring and starts walking to the back with his head down like a St. Bernard who's just been told he's not a good boy. But then, that street fight with Cactus Jack in Madison Square Garden, which pulled a classic performance from a man whose knees were made of cereal, followed by an iconic Hell in a Cell, and then WrestleMania 2000, but we don't need to look at that. A story is only as good as its antagonists, and this reign made Triple H the best in the game. I'm really sorry, I tried to avoid the pun. Number 3, Hulk Hogan, WWF Champion 1984. It feels a bit cruel to call this a bad match. After all, it is the 80s and it was a massively different time, but it is a bit dull and quite odd.
This is where the Iron Sheik hate came from. Hey, I guess with the hate from Irish Sheik started, huh?
Especially when new top babyface All-American Hulkster's first real bit of offense is strangling his opponent with his own clothes. Sheik gets basically no moves in for the first 5 minutes, and when he does, it's a series of stomps. What athleticism. I'm being mean. There's some wrestling here, basic as it is, and Gorilla Monsoon's on commentary, which makes everything better.
Yeah.
But it's funny to think that the match that saw Hulk Hogan ascend to the top of the WWF, that ushered in the era of Hulkamania, the Rock and Wrestling connection, that put the company on the map, a 4-year title reign that reached its pinnacle with Hogan lifting Andre the Giant over his head in front of 93,000 people. You keep quiet, Dave Meltzer. It started with a match that went 7 minutes and wasn't even the main event of the card. And speaking of era-defining reigns, number 2, Hollywood Hogan, WCW/NWO champion, 1996. 10 years later, he's at it again. Fortunately, the match that made it happen is far less important than the events surrounding it, because the match is what? Bobbins. It's like the 4th giant Hogan encounter of the year, and all of them are just the worst kind of mid-90s slugfest. Also, this is Hogan's first match as a heel, so it was a bit of an unknown prospect. It's not quite a vibe, kids, but it's after this match that Hogan spray paints the NWO logo over the classic big gold. You know, the one with the dent in the top. It was a shocking sight and set the tone for the grittier, heel-led style of wrestling promotion for what would go on to be a year-long reign that firmly established WCW as the must-watch wrestling product of the age. Hulk's developed a bit of a reputation for himself in latter days, and that, dear friends, is how to use a euphemism. But when you're
Yep, you got that right.
writing the book of wrestling, it's hard to look past the remarkable achievement that is having 2 title reigns a decade apart that ushered in new heights for the business. And number 1, Roman Reigns.
I should know this is gonna be in this one. Of course, I'd be number 1.
Universal Champion 2020. When you think back to the summer of 2020, it really does feel like a different world. A different man was president, his hair twin was prime minister, and The Fiend was Universal Champion. At Payback, The Fiend defended the belt in a basic triple threat match, although that was in name only, as for the majority, Roman didn't even bother coming out. Instead, we got Fiend versus Strowman. Again. In fairness, it was the most entertaining clash of that rivalry, but it's a bit like saying time spent alone to reflect is the best part of food poisoning. Finally, Roman gets to the ring, and there's some perfunctory peril before the big dog hits the spear and wins the belt. Now look me in the eyes. Who honestly could have predicted at that moment that we were seeing the beginning of a reign that would last over 1,000 days, that would be lauded as cinema, that would feature heart-in-your-throat clashes across the world with Daniel Bryan, Edge, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, John Cena, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes. It's still too soon. While your mileage might vary with the length of this reign and the fact that at the time of recording, Reigns hasn't wrestled a match for 10 weeks, let alone defended the belt, it's a good argument for leaving the party before it gets too late. It is, however, hard to argue that this reign is anything but era-defining. And when the sun finally does set on the island of relevancy, it'll be a mighty long time before we see anything like it again. And that's our list. As I said, this was a tough one.
Hopefully, at this past WrestleMania, folks don't want it to happen because they just want to be Azor, dickheads, or they want some records clear because of the person who hold the records. Who knows? Either way, hoping it's at WrestleMania. Anyway, of course it would be. Of course they didn't want him. But other than that, like I said, the only bay faces was on here was first Hulk was Hogan. Babyface run. So like I said, like I said, it was mostly babyface. It was mostly heels in this one, and very little babyface was Batista, Hogan, and Drew McIntyre. Hogan's only twice as both babyface and heel, but still, you know what I'm saying. I figure like most majority to be heel wins. But other than that, if you like my reaction, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's your boy T-Bear signing off. One love.